Well, we have been started in the whole venture world, but ultimately moved into growth equity. So our approach was, how can we make the biggest impact? And the way to make the biggest impact is have very rapid revenue growth. If a company is a great idea, but is not able to actually get commercial traction, you can't have any impact. So our approach really is, where do we think there's either consumer or commercial need that is disrupting an industry and the consumer is ready to do it? So an example of that would be a company called Zevia, for example, which is in a zero-calorie drink business, and it's the only all-natural drink that has no additives, no sugar. But it took almost 20 years for that product to be an overnight success. And so we've invested in it. It's now gone public recently, and it's been really quite interesting. But it has to go against a Pepsi and a Coke. Or if you go into something like the energy transition business, you actually have to be in an area where people care. So you can't just go into the middle of Iowa and try to do energy transition work. You really need to be on the two coasts, where California is an important factor, New York's an important factor, Virginia, Georgia. I'd say there are probably two really important ones. One's what we call healthy consumer. Somewhere close to a third of our healthcare costs are what I'd call foodborne. So it's what you put in you. Hippocrates made it quite clear that food should be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Most of us don't think about that when we put sugar into our bodies, toxic oils of the sort. So clean foods that can be really enjoyed is one major theme. And the other is circularity. And so I came from the operating world, and it's really not having any waste. And if you don't have any waste, by definition, humans waste everything. We've grown up in a world where there are more resources than people. We're now in 2100s, or 21st century, where there's now less resources, more people. So we have to start thinking about what we do. So what we're looking for is the mindless ability for people to disrupt industries. What we see is that there should be no such thing as garbage. Everything should be able to be reused, and that takes two components. It means better raw materials that can actually not have to be thrown away because they've been transformed into a type of plastic that you can't recycle. But it also requires a mindset of the consumer, theoretically, to care about what they put in. And they're only going to care if it's a better performance. So we're very excited about the concept of segregating garbage down to the biomass that can be used for compost, the plastics that come from your Nespresso cup that can be recycled into your shoes, not just asphalt. That the glass actually is thick enough that it can be washed numerous times and reused, not just crushed again into asphalt. And I would say probably the other is really looking at how you can weave all of these natural fibers like cotton or I should say hemp or bamboo rather than cotton, so that they're not so water intensive and not so farming intensive on the soil. So it's a long way of saying the important issue for us is really making sure there's sustainability. A typical cotton crop uses way too much water, but so does extracting oil to make a nylon shirt. Hemp is a very effective material, so seeing what we can do there. Well, you're asking about where we are investing. The other thing about circularity is recognizing we live in an ecosystem. And what that really means is the bugs are important, the birds are important, the air is important, the food is important, and that all affects how one uses waste. So there's a fellow by the name of John Todd, who is at the University of Vermont, wrote a book called The Living Machine. It's been revised numerous times. It had to do with how New York ended up cleaning up their water supply system by adding more land and drainage rather than spending $1 billion for a cleaning plant. So that would be one. And another book by Rob Dunn called Never Home Alone. It's the interaction between bacteria and man. Again, very much towards sustainability.